In this video, we're gonna build a Python unit converter GUI application using Tkinter. This is part 1, and we're gonna create and style the graphic user interface. By the way, before you get started, if you're here, I'm sure you want to become a programmer, and yes, here on YouTube you can learn a lot, but one of the best ways to actually improve, especially if you want to turn this into a career, is to take some courses made by experts in the field. Usually these courses are structured in a way that makes it easier for you to learn properly, and I've selected for you some of the best courses and learning platforms. You'll find the links in the description down below, and by using those links, you're gonna help this channel as well. So first of all, we need to import Tkinter, STK, then we need to import sys, and also from pil import image and image tk, like that. If you don't have pil installed, you'll get an error, so you need to install it using pip install pillow or pip3 install pillow. Perfect. So first of all, let's create a class for our unit converter, because I'm going to use a class as the structure. If you don't know how to use classes, I'll leave the link to my 6 videos series on classes in the description, so you can go and check that out. So class unit converter, I'm gonna inherit from tk.frame like that, and I'm just going to pass. Okay, I will add all the things later on. Then I need to get the operating system, because I've noticed that the width and the height of the window might need to be different depending on the system you're on. So operating system platform, like that. Then I'm going to create the root window, and then I'm going to create an instance of my unit converter, and I'm going to give it a title unit converter, like that. Perfect. Then if win in operating system, I'm going to give the window this geometry, so 450 pixels by 210. This is the width 450 and the height 210. Then elif Linux in operating system. Then I'm just going to do something like that, and it's going to be 230, like this. I haven't really tried on Mac, so I'm not sure about the dimensions. If you're using Mac, you need to check this yourself. I'm just going to use the same width and the same height as Linux. So live Darwin in operating system. It's going to copy this and place it in here like that. Then of course I don't want this to be resizable, so root like this and false, and also height false. And then of course I need to call the main loop, because otherwise we're not going to see anything. So let's actually try to run this and see what we've got so far. So unit converter GUI, so we've got something like that. All right, perfect. So now in the class up here, we're going to do something. So let's delete the pass, like that. So first of all, I'm going to override the init method of the frame class with my own. So def init, like that, self root. Then I'm going to assign the colors that I'm going to use to some variables. So we're going to use those variables instead of the colors, the hard-coded colors. So if you want to change them, you can just change them here, and you'll see different colors on the whole interface. So self color 1, so for 1, then I'm just going to duplicate those, and 2 and 3. So here, like that, and also like this. Perfect. I've just set 3 colors, but you could have as many as you want, so and name them in different ways. So like background color, foreground, bottom background, etc. The more the variables for the colors, the more customizable the app, because you can then change the color of just the button or the text of the button, for example, without changing everything. Then I'm going to have all the variables, all the conversions available. Like that, okay? And it's going to be kilometers, miles, then. Okay, so here you can write as many as you want. I just have those, but you can have as many as you want. A quick interruption here. I just want to mention that I now have a Patreon account where you can support me to keep creating content like this and also get exclusive perks. If you want to check that out, I'll leave the link in the description box down below, and thank you so much for the support. And then I'm going to call the init method of the base class, which is the frame, and I'm just calling this after defining all the variables up here, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to actually use the self color, etc, etc. Okay, so super, then init, then here root, go up a little bit like that, and then the background is going to be self color 1, like this. So basically, by calling the init method of the parent, which is the frame, it's like doing something like tk.frame and then all the parameters. So now self is the main frame, so we could do something like self.pack, etc, etc. But this is not actually that readable. I mean, this is readable, but it could be a little bit confusing because you don't know if this is an instance variables or whatever. So in this case, I always do something like this. So I always assign the self to an instance variable like that. Okay, so now I can use something like dot mainframe dot pack, and as you can see, this is so much more readable because you know straight away that this is the mainframe. But if you were just to write something like self dot pack, this could be a little bit confusing. So I always do something like that. This is not actually necessary. It's something that I actually want to do because I think this is less confusing. Okay, so now I can do something like I've actually already done something like this. So I can use fill, take both, and then expand true like that. I'm just using pack because I just want to stretch the frame to cover the whole thing. And then self main frame, and then column configure like this, 0, weight 1, and then row configure, so 2, which is the third row. And then I'm going to call a method that we're going to create in a second. So self create widgets. Okay, so now let's define the method to create all the widgets. This is how I decided to structure things, but you could create as many methods as you want, maybe one for one part of the interface, the other for another part, etc. This is quite a little program, so I don't think that you need to create a lot of methods, but if you have a really big interface, maybe dividing things, you know, the toolbar on one method, the other part in the other method, etc., could be useful. So let's go down here. Okay, so let's define now the create widgets like that, self like this, perfect. So the first thing that we're going to add is the title. So tk.label like that. So self.mainframe, which is the parent, that the background color is going to be self color 1, foreground color, self color 2, like that. And then I'm going to write font, and it's going to be Arial 22 bold, like that. I'm just using Arial, but you could use whatever font. And of course, you might need to change a few values because a different font could throw the positioning off a little bit. And then, of course, the text, which is going to be unit converter like this. And then you know that we need to place it on the frame, otherwise you're not going to see anything. So we're going to use grid and the column is going to be the first one, so 0, row 0. Sticky is going to be TKEW to stretch it horizontally, and then the padding, pad Y, I want it to be 10 and 20 pixels, like this. So let's actually try to run it and see what we've got. Oh, we've got an error. So line 54, let's see, we need root. Of course, here we need to add root, okay? Because in the init method here, we have the root parameter, so we need to actually provide it down here when we create the instance of the unit converter, okay? So this is something that you need to do. So let's actually run it. So as you can see already, you can see something going on here. So pretty cool. Let's close it. Okay, so let's carry on. Now that we've got our title, we need to create a string var that we're going to use in the option menu. By the way, talking about option menus, I've actually made a video where I show you how to style the option menu to make it even more modern looking with a custom icon, etc, etc. I'll leave the link in the cards up above and in the description box down below if you want to check that out. So first thing, we need to have the string var like this, and then we need to set the value of this string, so conversion set to the first value of a list of conversions. So because of course you want to start with the first value and then the user can select a different value, and then we can create the option menu, which I'm going to call it select conversion tk.option menu like this. So the main frame is going to be the parent, then self conversion, okay, and then I'm going to do something like self conversions available, and by doing this we're actually sort of unpacking all the things here, so all of these here like that. And now we need to configure the option menu, because when you create it you cannot do this, so we need to do this afterwards. So this is going to be self.select conversion like this. So the background color is going to be self color 3. The foreground color is going to be self color 1. Then the active background is going to be the color 3. And the active foreground is going to be self color 1. As you can see, they are the same, so I don't want the background to change when you hover over the option menu. I don't want it to change. Then the font is going to be, as usual, Arial 14 pixels this time. The border is going to be 0. I don't want the border. Highlight thickness 0, which is sort of an highlight around the select box, and I don't want it. And then indicator 0. Why? Because the default indicator is not that good in my opinion, so I'm gonna hide it. As I said in the video I mentioned earlier, I explained all you need to know to style the option menu and also how to add your own icon as the indicator. Then let's actually place it on the screen and see what we've got, and then we can move on and actually style the menu as well. So column is going to be 0, row 1, sticky TKEW, pad X, in this case 50, so the padding on the left and on the right. Then let's see what we've got. So as you can see, this is already working, but this menu here is not looking great. So now we're going to style this as well. So let's close this and go up here. So self.select conversion, and I'm going to do something like menu config. As you can see, the auto completion doesn't work if I use menu like that. So I'm just going to remove this for a second, and then I'm going to add that back in. So as you can see now, the auto completion works. So color 3, and then the foreground is going to be self.color 1 like that. Active background is going to be self color 1, and then active foreground self color 2. The font is going to be the same, so 14, like that, and then active border width 0, like that. Then the border is going to be 1, and then relief is going to be flat, like that. Let's see what we've got. Actually, we need to change and add the menu back in, like that. So as you can see, this already looks so much better. Okay, if you remove the border around here, you'll see that, let's actually try to do that and you'll see what I mean. So as you can see, in my opinion, it doesn't look great, but if you like this way, just use it this way and add border 0. I actually like border 1. I actually haven't mentioned that on Windows, the option menu might look slightly different. Maybe you can tweak things here and there, but it's mostly due to the operating system and it's something that you can't do much about. So now we need to create the container for our conversion. Okay, so down here, we're going to do something like self container values. As I said, these are names that I gave to the things, but you can use the names that you want. Background self color 1, like that. And this container is going to contain the conversion, so the value that you want to convert and the converted value. So self container values column configure, like that. So 1 and then weight 1, and then I'm going to place it on the screen. So container values grid column is going to be 0, row 2, sticky is going to be tk.nsew, part x is going to be 50, and then part y is going to be 40. I'm not going to run it because you don't see anything. Then now we've got a container like this, and we can actually put things into it. But before we do that, if you're enjoying the video, don't forget to leave a like. Every like actually means the world to me. And also subscribe as well. I'm gonna post a lot of videos like this one, so you don't want to miss them. So let's put things into our container. So first of all, I want to create an entry for the value to convert. As you can see, I'm using names that are really easy to understand, so value to convert, etc., etc. And this is the way to go because you want to be as clear as possible when you name variables, so a person looking at this code can understand it straight away, and even you in the future, you'll see that when you write things like this, instead of maybe V or I don't know, something like that, this is so much clearer, okay? So the entry is going to be inside, of course, the container. So the container values is going to be the parent, then the background is going to be the color 3, like this. The foreground is going to be the color 1. Then the select background is going to be self color 1, and then select foreground is going to be self color 2, like this. Then the font is going to be Arial, as usual, 14 pixels, like that, and then it's going to be highlight thickness 0. I don't want the sort of border around. Then border 0. Justify TK center because I want the text to be in the center, and then 11. And then of course we need to use the grid to place this inside the container grid. So the column is going to be 0, which is the first column. The row is going to be 0, first row. Sticky tkn because I want this to stick at the top, and then iPad Y is going to be 3. I've actually used iPad Y3 to make it as tall as the option menu because here you don't have the height parameter to use, so you need to use the padding to actually increase the height of the entry. And if you run that, let's see what we get. As you can see, this is already looking pretty good. So let's now actually use a little arrow. I've actually downloaded the SVG from Font Awesome, and I then changed the color and scale it down to 32 by 28 pixels. In this case, the height is really important because otherwise the little icon would get cut off at the bottom. So make sure you don't leave blank spaces at the top, at the bottom of the image, and also that the icon's height is 28 pixels maximum. Of course, you need to test things yourself. I'm just talking about my own version with those dimensions, with this geometry, etc., etc. And I actually have the arrow here. So as you can see, this is the arrow here. Okay, so let's close this. Perfect. So to add the arrow, we need to create the photo image object. So self arrow image tk photo image, like that, and then I'm going to use image open and arrow.png. By the way, sometimes images are not shown, and if I were you, I would really check out the video where I explain why and how to fix that. Here, it's definitely going to work because I do things the right way, but you might run into this issue in the future, and it'll be nice to know how to fix it. So I'll leave the link in the description box down below and in the cards up above if you want to check that out. Then, self arrow is going to be a label, because I'm going to use a label, and then inside the label, I'm going to place the image. So self container values, the parent, the background is going to be self color1, and the image is going to be self.arrow image, like that. As you can see here, I've used the background self color1, and if you were to change the color self color1, you would change the color of the label just by doing this once, instead of having to change it here and to change that in the other place. Okay, so this is why I've actually created this variable, this color variable, so you can change the color just once, and that's it, basically. By the way, the image has a little border by default. In this case, the border is not necessary because it has the same color as the background and you don't see it. I'm gonna leave it there because I took that into account when I actually worked out the right height for the icon. But if you need those few pixels, then you can set it to 0. As I always say, you need to experiment with things until you get a good result. Then, of course, you need to use the grid to place it the screen, so row 0, like that, and let's see what we've got. So as you can see, of course, now we need to add another entry here, so the arrow would be here, basically. Okay, so as I said, we need to actually add another container for the converted value. I'm going to copy the thing here because this is the same, like that, and I'm going to call it, of course, self converted value, like that. This is the same, and as I'm actually going to disable it, I'm going to use the disable background color 3 and then the foreground, and this is going to be self color 1. Okay, so the colors are actually the same. Maybe I could just delete those, but I'm just going to leave them there. It doesn't hurt anyone. And then of course I want state to be disabled, and then also I'm going to change the cursor, so cursor arrow, and I'm going to show you why I'm actually doing this. Then let's use grid self converted value grid is going to be a 2, so the third column, row is still the same, sticky n, and this the same. Perfect. So let's actually try to run this. As you can see, so much better. And here, as you can see, here you can write and click on it. Here you cannot. But if I were to remove the arrow, you get this, and it would be quite misleading. So I've actually decided to add the arrow. So it looks so much better. As you can see, it looks like a label. Here you could have used a label, okay, for the converted value, but I've just decided to use an entry, so I could just style exactly the same as the other one. And also I've actually disabled it, so this is sort of like a label. And as I said, this is the result that we've got, but as you can see, now you can add whatever here. okay, and nothing works as expected. In part 2, we will see how to add all the functionality, validation included, so how to actually let the user just enter numbers and not letters, etc, etc. So stay tuned because the video is going to be released really soon, and if it's already been released, you should see it on the screen. Don't forget to check out my Patreon and also like the video and subscribe to the channel to be part of this little community of learners, and I'll see you in part 2. Bye!